What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we got round two with Kelly Shaefer of Atheist and the kick-ass new project Till the Dirt. Great to be able to talk with you again, man. Deja vu, same background and everything.
Yeah, this is my spot so I can sit out and smoke cigarettes,
Yeah,
I have a interview day. You mentioned you had a busy day today before we started the show. I also have several interviews today as well. So I've set myself up outside so I can smoke and talk shit.
yeah. Smoke one cigarette per interview or per question, even.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime, man, anytime. I had the privilege of hearing this new album, Outside the Spiral by Till the Dirt, very early on, and it is just absolutely awesome. For people who haven't heard the full album yet, though, what would you feel like the first singles that we heard, such as a starring role and Outside the Spiral, the title track, is a good representation of this whole record, or is that just the tip of the iceberg of what's to come?
Yeah, I think that starring role in particular is it's got a little bit of everything that kind of I love about the record. Um, because it's the whole record has this sort of hybrid vibe to it where there's a combination of like stoner rock and not stoner rock really, but like just a stoner vibe and an old school Seattle feeling mixed with super extreme metal, probably the most extreme screaming and speed that I've ever sort of used in my music ever. It's certainly different than Atheist by far, and I would say that it is definitely not Atheist Part Two or anything like that. It's very uniquely different. And so yeah, I think that those are I you know. All the songs on it I feel like there's no filler at all, and everybody says that, but I mean, there's I had 25 songs to choose from to put the record together. And so me and Scott Burns really kind of worked on, which ones will be the most indicative of the hybrid nature of the record, or of the songs. And so starting rolling outside the spiral are two, those two songs collectively we thought would be the first, would be good introductions to the record. So yeah, well, that
Was
was my short answer.
was Till the Dirt like an idea that you always had on the back of your mind for like many years, or was this sort of like a spur of the moment, like out of nowhere idea?
Yeah, completely out of COVID. COVID spawned this isolation that I don't think anybody ever really experienced until that happened. And for some, it was tough, but for me, it was the most prolific writing period I've ever had in my career. I was just sitting at home. I set up a little studio and started writing, and I was really kind of putting together and logging riffs for new atheist stuff. And so I just tripped upon "Outside the Spiral" was the very first song that I wrote, and I did it all in one night, and I did all the vocals and everything. And I woke up the next day, and I was like, wow, this fucking song is it's really weird. It's definitely not ever an atheist song. It's not. I don't even know what it is. And so I sent it around to a few friends just to see if they felt the same way about it. And I got a lot of really great feedback and response from it. And it was just kind of inspiring to hear the feedback that I got from my contemporaries, people that I look up to and people I respect musically. And so I just started from there, and I just started writing every night. And I would start at like 7 p.m. and finish the song by, I don't know, 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock. And so I was getting a lot of unique takes and vibes that I wouldn't normally get in any other sort of songwriting setting. So no, it definitely started off just just completely organic and natural, and that's really hard to capture that vibe, because you tend to always, as an artist, write for something or with something in mind or a particular style, but there was none of that. I just started writing like crazy, and I wrote like 25 songs in 6 weeks and
Wow.
demoed them all. Yeah, I played all the guitar and in the beginning of it, I played all the bass as well. And I had like a really, because I'm left-handed, I had a really shitty left-handed bass that I borrowed from somebody. Actually, they flipped the strings around for me. And so it was really terrible. So Scott Burns actually bought me a left-handed bass and sent it to me so that I could, so I can, do, proper bass tracks before we knew it was going to be a band. Because again, we were just excited about the songs. For me, I just didn't know really where it was going, but it ended up just being this huge blessing. So COVID was really good to me in terms of music. It was a really interesting time because it created this, this unknown feeling. A lot of people, I think, felt like, man, how do we get out of this? It was so unprecedented, and that kind of, that kind of surrounding translates into music, in a way that, obviously things that happen around an artist reflect in their music, and so that unique scenario, I'm so glad I was able to take a snapshot musically of where I was in my headspace at that time. So, yeah, very organically created, and at the end of the day, I didn't know should this be a solo record, or I didn't know what it should be, but I decided, no, let's put a band together, and so I was able to invite a lot of really great guests to help me finish the record. And then once the record was done, I put the actual band together, and so now we're ready to rock.
I can't, I can't wait to see what this sounds like live and what really goes from here. Because like even the songs that weren't released as singles, going back to like my first question, like with tracks like As It Seems or Forced to Because, Who Awaits, Watch You Grow Old. There's really like every song like has its own vibe, and it's very raw and it's very organic. I feel like the listening to this album is just as organic as you said when the album came together. So it really does have an organic nature all around. And I was wondering too, because like Atheists, when I listen to like Piece of Time or Elements, etc., like it's very technical. It has like this sort of prog aspect behind it. And when I finally saw you guys live recently, you really hit the nail on the head with its riffing style and its structure. This album is a little bit more raw. So did Till the Dirt maybe feel a little bit more free in a way? And not to say that Atheist doesn't have creative freedom in a way, but I feel like there's more technical proficiency to focus on, and with Till the Dirt, it's kind of like letting it go almost, right?
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's they're definitely two different animals. There's no frog nature to the Till the Dirt record. It's very it's sort of song orientated, except that it's much more brutal, I think, and heavier than Atheist in a lot of ways. It's definitely faster and more frantic, and but it also has dynamics that are kind of different than Atheist. Atheist has dynamics as well. I mean, songs like Air and stuff from Elements has a lot of dynamics, but this yeah, just a little groovier, I guess, and a little thicker, a little more Sabbath, a little more of those kinds of grooves, and I love that stuff. I love old Caius and and really high quality stoner rock, is like my go-to listen. So I just kind of combined that love of I didn't mean to, but I mean that's just kind of how it turned out, that I combined those styles, something I couldn't do in Atheist.
Yeah.
I wasn't it wouldn't be not allowed to do it, but it wouldn't be right to do to go that far outside the bounds of the Atheist sort of template.
Yeah.
And so it was really refreshing for me to be able to use my singing voice as well as screaming, and so yeah, everything about it was just very liberating for me, and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to have two different outlets,
Absolutely. It's funny you mention that too, and this isn't like a smack talk by any means, but I feel like when you are in a death metal band, especially one that's a household name in death metal like Atheist, I don't want to say you're pigeonholed, because Atheist in itself has a fairly experimental sound, but like sometimes death metal bands go way outside the boundaries and put out a really good album, but because of having the death metal past, it kind of gets like, for instance, I'm gonna get so much shit on YouTube for saying this, but I don't care. I think Illud Divinium Insanus is actually a very good album, but it's very different from what Morbid Angel has done, so therefore a lot of people do tend to give it like an unfair rap. But Illud Divinium Insanus sounds like a Forgotten Godflesh album in a way. So like to see you kind of like express a different side of yourself in this, like I think is gonna really shock Atheist fans and also really get them on board too.
I hope so, man. I do hope that people will allow it to happen, so to speak, because I think anytime you're with a band for a really long time, then you go off to do something new, people immediately associate you with what you've done. This is nothing like anything I've ever done, and it's nothing like Atheist really at all. I mean, there might be moments, because I wrote a lot of the guitar stuff on the Atheist albums, and I wrote all the guitar stuff on this album. So there might be moments where you go, oh, that has an Atheist vibe, or just by default. You know, I mean, it's my style, but I feel like for the most part, 90% of it is stuff that would never happen on an Atheist record,
Mm.
and that's, you know, and it happened, like I said, organically. So that's a really good feeling that, you know, it's not pretentious in any way. It's not thought, like I didn't think about, you know, I didn't plan on putting this record together. I didn't plan on anything. And so when things like that happen, it's really nice because it is very difficult to come away from what you know and what people know you for, and be allowed to do it, and to actually, you know, sign with Nuclear Blast, and have them believe in the record, and it's a good feeling, you know, just to be able to do something different.
Yeah.
And so we'll see how it goes. You know, I mean, this metal world is very fickle. So you know, we start pulling in, you know, and this in particular, pulling in these kinds of old school Sabbathy, you know, stoner rock, old school Seattle vibes, and mixing that with you know, blast beats and extreme screaming is not your everyday fare. So it's going to take people, just like with Atheist, it took people a minute to kind of absorb it. But I think that it's really important that music that you not fully swallow the whole meal the first time you eat it, so to speak. You know, with a record, you want to be able to find new things each time you listen to it, and that's definitely always been the case with me, which is, you know, it's not conducive with huge success, because a lot of times people review records very quickly. You know, like you say you have 5 interviews, like, so if you were, you know, in a day, so if you were reviewing records and you had, you know, 10 records to review by the end of the week, you're not going to spend the time needed. And it happens with Atheist all the time. People get a new Atheist record and they go, oh, I don't understand it. And they write a horrible review. And then, you know, a year and a half later, they're like, oh, I fucking love this record, you know? And it's like, yeah, okay, but you wrote this really horrible review because you didn't spend but, you know, 15 minutes listening to a couple songs. And so I hope that people will take the time to absorb the Till the Dirt record, and allow those different feelings to sort of you know, to find their way into your heart, you know, and into your listening space, and I think that they'll find that you know, the record has some longevity qualities to it.
Yeah. My review of this album. My review of this album is it's the thunder and lightning of Tampa, Florida, mixed with the rain of Seattle. That's how I look at it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Being that this project did come out of nowhere and was a spur of the moment, but you know, now we're seeing a different side of who Kelly Shaefer is, outside of Atheist. What, like, I guess, side of yourself would you be expressing? Did you maybe almost unlock a persona or a side of your heart that maybe you didn't have access to before you made this, or did this maybe come together and be like, this is another side of me that you haven't seen when we listen to Atheist?
Well, it's a side of me that some have seen, but you know, a lot of people don't know about my career with Neurotica. So from 1997 to 2002, I had a band called Neurotica, and we, you know, Brian Johnson from AC/DC produced the record, the very first record, and kind of discovered the band, and it was very, you know, it's very well. So that side of me, I was singing on that whole record, so it wasn't an extreme metal record at all. So my Atheist world and the Neurotica world were two different worlds that neither knew about, so to speak. You know, so I've always had a singing voice, but I never used it with Atheist, and I never used those kinds of styles with Atheist ever, because I didn't feel like they would be as welcomed. And so for me, this is a familiar voice. I've just never been able to combine it in such a ferocious way as I have on this Till the Dirt record. So so I would say that it's a side of me that I knew, but a lot of other people don't, especially in the underground metal world. But we, you know, Neurotica was we did Ozfest in 2002. It was you know, we had a good probably 7-8 year run. Signed with the WWE and SmackDown Records, and Vince McMahon actually signed the band, and we you know, we had songs on the radio, and so it was a completely different above ground as opposed to underground world. But so when that fell apart in 2002, I never really had an outlet anymore to use my vocals any other way than I do with Atheist. So this, I think, just again, when I sat and started writing. Till the Dirt came about as I was writing riffs for Atheist, and I just wrote this song, Outside the Spiral was the first song I wrote, and it just was so different, and I was like, this isn't neurotica, it's not atheist, I don't know what it is, but and then I kind of sent it around to some friends just to see if it, if it was hitting them in a different way as well, and I got a lot of really great feedback from my contemporaries, and so that's what led me to continue writing. And then before I knew it, I wrote like these 25 songs in this short period of time, and they all had that same vibe. They all had this template of this hybrid quality that I couldn't have thought of or done any other way than organically. So I guess, yeah, I mean, to answer your question, it's a side of me that I wanted to be able to show in the extreme underground world, but was never able to find a place for it until now. So it's really exciting to me to be able to use both sides of my musical world in one offering.
Yeah.
It's
Well, you have multiple bands that you're in, but I know that you also have multiple mediums. You mentioned to me last time we spoke that you paint as well, and that you have many different mediums that you express yourself with. So does the side of what you're expressing, or just the creative energy that you channel, different depending on what project you're with or what medium and art you're working in, or is there a method behind the madness? Because in the end, to quote Henry Matisse, every painting is a self-portrait. So quite frankly, like
yeah.
so
That's a great quote.
yeah, right.
Yeah, I think that your environment really sort of dictates. If you're a true artist, you allow your environment, your surroundings to infiltrate whatever you're making, be it painting or making music or cinema. And actors, and you see a lot of actors who find themselves making a movie, and they become engulfed with the character, and I think those are the best performances when you allow that to creep in, and then and not sort of second guess yourself, just go with whatever you're doing, and be as spontaneous as you can, and just create, and then think about it later. And so I think that that's what I've always sort of allowed to happen. And with Till the Dirt, because of the COVID lockdown, it just created this unsure isolation and weirdness, and nobody knew what was going to happen or how we were going to get out of that mess, and that tenseness, and plus as a smoker of 35 years, that was a period of time where if I'm being honest, I thought maybe I don't live through this, maybe I get COVID. Nobody really knew what was going on, and I lost a lot of friends younger than me who didn't smoke and didn't have that that issue, and so I really was writing as if maybe there isn't a tomorrow. Maybe I make it. So I'm going to try to write as much as I can and record it and demo it, and not knowing that it would ever become an album or a band. So I know it sounds very morbid and dark, but that's kind of where my headspace was, and so that translated into a very angry record that has just has these new qualities that I've never sort of put out ever musically, and it's a direct result of that isolation. I mean, that very first period of lockdown was, unlike anything anybody's experienced in life. I mean, that was something unprecedented, and so it kind of created the Till the Dirt record. I mean, it really did that, and the politics around that were happening at that time. I mean, it was a very divided time. There's another song on the record called Invitation that's very indicative of the political sort of infiltration of the COVID thing that was happening, and how angry it made me, and so that song is one of my favorites on the record. I hope it becomes a single, actually, because it's a gnarly song. And when I listen to it, it immediately takes me back to how I felt watching television, watching people just dying in droves, and watching the political landscape just fall apart, and so I think that's what created great punk rock. Was back in the 80s, punks were very angry about the state of affairs in the country, and that created that anger in punk rock, I think. And I'm actually very surprised that punk rock isn't having a resurgence with the nature of the political world these days, and the division between people. Usually that translates musically, and it doesn't. I don't really see a lot of political. Not that it needs to be political, but just that effect that it has. That makes people angry. And if you make artists angry, they create angry art, so to speak. And so that's where Till the Dirt came from. Really, just out of that. scenario.
It's the cruelest duality that when things are at their worst, art is at its best. I will say there have been some great apolitical punk rock bands, but they are like when I say that they are underground, they are underground. There's a great underground black metal scene in New York City, but
Oh yeah.
you have to find it by accident. They did a show on an abandoned train track, like in the subway. Like that's how like literally and metaphorically underground it is. Like so
That's why it's great to be in New York or LA, in big cities, because you get the first taste of that, and you get to see things that the people outside of the big cities don't get to see until after it's been developed and sort of already come to fruition. You kind of get to watch it be created. So while I sit here in Florida thinking that there aren't as many punk bands as there should be for the political nature of the world today. You're seeing it in a subway station or on a railroad track.
yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad. I didn't learn until like an hour after I was at that show that the track was abandoned. I kept like looking paranoid at the side, like making sure like nobody got killed. But then, and then my friend was like, "Dude, yeah, no, this train station's been abandoned for like 30 years. Like we're good." I'm like, "Okay,
Wow.
I'm good." Um,
What a, what a cool place to have a show, though.
right, right. I mean, there's just that's like everybody's always worried like when venues close and when venues close, and obviously keep concert venues alive and whatnot, but get creative. I'd love to see like shows and like I mean those punk rock Denny shows are awesome. Like they gotta like be more creative with that.
What the fuck's up, Denny's? we laugh about that all the time. That one particular clip
Yeah.
of those kids just going nuts in the Denny's is great.
I mean, hey, those are the modern day VFW halls.
Right?
Yeah, I want to see one at an
Yeah.
I want to see one at an Arby's or a Red Lobster. See how crazy that can get. Um, but
Arby's.
but they have the meats. Um, but and the final question, or not the final question, the second to last question I wanted to ask you. This one being pertaining to the dirt. Is that could this have allowed you to bring more stuff into Atheist or other projects in a way, or do you want to maybe use the energy that you're channeling into this as a separate toolbox to other projects?
100% separate toolbox. Yeah, I mean, the new Atheist stuff that I'm working on is I want to take all the things that people have loved about Atheist for years and really just amp it up, and really make the next Atheist record just really spectacular, and but it'll be completely based on the things that I've loved and people have loved and things that have made Atheist great, and the things that have created the ability to last for 30 plus years. So I would never try to mess up the template of Atheist with something new that I'm doing. I mean, I have so much respect for what we've been able to accomplish, and the respect that is given back from the music community about that music. And so I would never try to sneak in a clean vocal on an Atheist song. I just don't feel like it's not the time, or it's not the place for it. And so rest assured, Atheist fans, I'm not I'm not going to. If anything, you're going to get more of the things you love about Atheist on the next record, for sure. It's going to be technically insane, and because a lot of things have happened. I mean, the last record we made was 2010, and then before that was 1993. So there's a lot of time in between these records, and each Atheist record is very different. So having all that time in between, music changes, everything changes, and but Atheist kind of doesn't stay the same, but still has that same sort of fundamental quality that you don't, the unexpected, things you don't hear. But I mean, so many bands have gone so far beyond what we did technically. Animals as Leaders, Between the Buried and Me, all these bands are just really, my God, I wish that we would have had that, bands, contemporaries, sister bands like that back in the day. It was just us and Cynic. So there were really, so many great bands, Obscura as well, as just that have taken the technical aspect of what we did and just taken it to the moon, And so while I don't want to go, I don't want to be crazy just for the sense of crazy, but I think that I know where we need to be, and a lot of people. I will not get too far into it, but a lot of people get upset when there's not all the original members in the band. And but you have to understand that, you know, if they're, you know, a guy like me, like I was very hands-on in 70% of the music that was created with Atheist. So you know, as a fan, please know that you know, the quality control of Atheist is well intact. You know what I mean? There's never a moment that I'm going to let anything change the things that people love about Atheist. And then as long as there's somebody in the band, an original member that can maintain that quality control, then you should always, you know, land with a record that pleases people for the things that they loved about your band from the beginning. So but there's a lot of gatekeeping and where people just get upset. Well, you know, I saw a review yesterday of a live performance from this past tour that we did, where the guy, you know, was saying that the performance was flawless, but he couldn't help thinking of how uncool it was that all the original guys weren't in the band. And it's like, what does that mean? You know, people just don't understand. Fans don't understand. I don't think how hard it is for five people to stay together for 30 plus years.
It's a legit
And
marriage.
you know, five.
It's a marriage.
Yeah, marriage to four other people, and you know, throughout the course of 3 decades, you know, not everybody wants to continue to live this life. You really got to love underground metal to play it, because it is not a lucrative business. It is not it's not full of accolades. It's, you know, it's a labor of love, and you really have to love it to do it. And so yeah, I think that, you know, fans tend to get angry about it. And I also, you know, the guys that I have in my band, and you just saw the show in New York, my fucking God, they're just full of energy. So they're bringing this level of energy to those songs that I don't feel like, you know, a group of 50-plus-year-old men would have that. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that having that around me elevates me to a different place than if I was playing with all of guys my age.
Well,
You know, and they played the shit out of that music. They play it so precisely and with so much energy. And I think that it's inspiring to me to be on stage with those guys and hear. And also, you know, those records, you know, people have been listening to those records for so long that, you know, you're used to that old production. When you see it in a live setting, it has such a heavier, more ferocious sort of contemporary vibe. I think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it breathes new life into a 21st century sound system, playing the, you know, Elements, for instance, is a very uniquely produced record. It was the first digital record that we ever did, and you know, and it's you know, it sounds a particular way, but those songs live are way heavier and way meatier and way thicker than they sound on the album. And I think that kind of blows people away when they're watching it. And in addition to the energy of the guys playing it with me, so yeah, I would just, you know, back to, you know, fans. I think you just you know, have the ability to understand that it's very difficult to keep all the original members. I can't think of many bands that have all the original members. Megadeth, Metallica, Merciful Fate,
Rammstein,
well,
Thrice, Tokyo Hotel, and Duran Gray, which I'm a huge Japanese J-rock fan. Duran Gray is, I think, the Rammstein and Thrice are the only three bands I can think of off the top of my head that have all the original members.
Yeah, it's just it's a difficult thing to keep a band together for any long period of time. And so as long as somebody is there that understands and fully keeps the template in place for what people love about that particular band, then, you know, fans should just let it happen and understand that it's either that or the band doesn't play anymore. You know what I mean? I certainly didn't, you know, I would think that having Atheist around still is better than, you know, and with different people is better than not having it around at all. And just because you couldn't find, you know, you couldn't keep the other guys, you know, I mean, Steve Flynn, for instance, as a drummer, you know, I mean, he's, you know, an incredible drummer, but he can't tour. You know, we never had the ability to be able to tour for any length of time. And because he's always had a really high quality corporate job, and he's got 4 daughters and a, you know, beautiful house, and he's got a life, you know, and a lot of guys grow out of it, you know, by their 30s, they're done and they're moving on and doing different things because of the lack of money and all that. And so I just never grew up. You know, I mean, I'm still the same guy I was when I was 16 years old. I still love making music, and I love playing live, and I love the life, you know, and so I will go to the dirt.
There you go.
That's what Till the Dirt is about. I say, you know, I will go to the dirt to playing music and living this life because I love it. It's amazing.
As somebody who's turning 30 next month, so Atheist has been around for the majority of my life, but I finally got to see
Yeah.
you guys. I'm just thankful you guys are still playing. To finally hear stuff off of Unquestionable Presence, to hear stuff off of Piece of Time or Jupiter, or just to hear that material live last month was just an extraordinary experience with Cynic playing Focus in its entirety. It was a time warp. That was my Bill and Ted going back in time moment, and I was very thankful to witness that. So
Thank you.
thank you. And
That was a cool evening. It was really kind of two totally different sides of the technical coin in one night. Cynic and Atheist are, while we were we've been friends for years and years, and we come from the same philosophy of music. It's completely different, vibes in a live setting. And I think that if you're a fan of technical music, then that had to be a pretty interesting evening. If nothing else, interesting. Maybe some of the younger people were potentially confused by the different nature of the two sets, but I think that at the end of the day, people hopefully left the venue going, wow, I saw a lot of shit tonight. A lot of different dynamics and vibes but all really well played stuff. Cynic did an amazing job, and their set is more technically beautiful, and it was more technically vicious. And so you're kind of getting all that in one night. And that's kind of hard to do because a lot of times you go to a show and you see three bands that sound the same. They've got the same kind of singer and the same, same stage presence and this and that. And, I don't know, by the end of the night, you're like, ugh, all right, enough. And so I think there was a lot of diversity in that tour, and that's, I think, what a lot of people took away from it, that, they were able to kind of, there's really two different bands from the same philosophy,
definitely, it was just an extraordinary experience.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So Kelly, I want to thank you so much for your time, for coming back on the show
Thank
today.
you.
Most of all, thank you for this amazing new album. Everybody, we are here with Kelly Shaefer of Atheist Until the Dirt. Outside the Spiral. It is coming out August 26th via Nuclear Blast. Be sure to pick that up. It is
August 25th.
Oh, what is it?
25th, August 25th.
Oh, August 25th.
But you can pre-order it now.
Yeah, all right.
You can pre-order it now at Nuclear Blast, and please, give it, give it a shot. Check out the singles, and allow yourself to soak in it for a minute, and because it's definitely something different. But I think most people are expecting that from me anyway. You're never going to get something mundane or boring from me at minimum.
Yeah, hell yeah. But thank you so much. Be sure to pick up Outside the Spiral August 25th. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.
Hey, brother. Thanks, man. Cheers.